I want to be honest with you about something. For years, I thought I knew how to sharpen. I had a grinder in the shop, a couple of oil stones I inherited from my father, and a leather strop I picked up at a flea market. And most of the time, my edges were fine. Not great. Fine. They would cut, but they would tear end grain, they would skip across a knot, and I was touching them up constantly. Then about 8 years ago, I spent a week with a Japanese woodworker who was visiting a timber framing event in Oregon. I watched him sharpen a chisel in about 4 minutes, and when he was done, he pushed it across a piece of hinoki cypress and peeled off a shaving so thin I could read newsprint through it. I asked him what grit his stone was. He just smiled and said, "It is not the stone, it is the system." Today, I am going to walk you through that system. 5 methods that Japanese craftsmen have refined over centuries to get any blade, chisels, plane irons, kitchen knives, even scissors, to a level of sharpness most of us have never experienced. And I do mean any blade. Plus, stick around to the end, because I will show you the exact test these craftsmen use to prove the edge is flawless, and it is something you can do in your own shop in about 10 seconds. Let me get into it. What we are really talking about here is a complete sharpening discipline, not a single trick, not a shortcut, but a system where each step builds on the one before it. Once you understand the logic behind it, you will never guess at sharpness again. You will know. So let me start with where this all comes from and why it works as well as it does. Japanese edge tools have been refined for well over 1,000 years. Swordsmiths in the Kamakura period, around the 1200s, developed metallurgy and sharpening techniques that were centuries ahead of anything happening in Europe at the time. When sword making declined, those same skills flowed directly into tool making. Blacksmiths in regions like Miki and Sanjo started forging chisels, plane irons, and kitchen knives using the exact same principles. What matters to us as modern woodworkers is that these were not artists chasing perfection for its own sake. These were tradespeople solving a practical problem. Japan is heavily forested with softwoods like hinoki and sugi, beautiful species but unforgiving if your edge is anything less than perfect. A dull blade crushes softwood fibers instead of severing them. You get tear-out, fuzzy surfaces, joints that do not seat properly. So Japanese craftsmen did not have the option of a good enough edge. Their material demanded a perfect one. And the sharpening system they built to meet that demand is what I want to share with you today. The foundation of everything is the waterstone progression. If you get nothing else from this video, get this. Japanese waterstones are softer than Western oil stones, and that is not a weakness. It is the whole point. As you sharpen, the surface of the stone breaks down and releases fresh, abrasive particles. That means you are always cutting with sharp grit, never skating across a glazed surface the way you sometimes do with a worn oil stone. The progression I learned starts at 1,000 grit for establishing the bevel. This is where you do the real shaping work. If you have a chisel that has been neglected or you are changing the bevel angle, you might drop down to a 400 grit or even a 220 grit stone to save time, but 1,000 is your everyday starting point. You soak that stone in water for about 10 minutes before you use it. You want it saturated so it does not suck moisture away from the cutting surface. Hold your blade at a consistent angle. For most bench chisels, that is somewhere between 25 and 30 degrees. For a plane iron, you are usually at 25 to 28 degrees, depending on the application. Lock your wrists. Use your whole upper body to move the blade and work the full length of the stone so it wears evenly. You will feel the stone cutting. There is a specific tactile feedback, almost like the blade is gripping the surface. When the scratches from your previous grit are gone and you have a uniform scratch pattern across the entire bevel, you move up. From 1,000, I go to 3,000. From 3,000 to 6,000. Some guys go to 8,000 or even 12,000 for a final polish, but 6,000 will give you an edge that is sharper than any factory edge you have ever received. At each stage, You are replacing the coarser scratch pattern with a finer one. That is all sharpening is. You are not magically transforming the steel. You are systematically removing the scratches that make an edge feel dull. And here is the key: you do not skip grits. Every grit in the sequence does specific work that the next grit depends on. Skip from 1000 to 6000, and you will spend 20 minutes trying to remove scratches that a 3000 grit stone would have handled in 45 seconds. Now, here is where it gets clever. When I watched that Japanese craftsman in Oregon, I noticed he kept a small white stone sitting next to his main sharpening stone. Before he started working at the higher grits, he would rub that small stone in circles on the surface of the main stone. Within a few seconds, a creamy paste built up on the surface. That small stone is called a nagura stone. Traditionally, it is a piece of natural stone, often from the Mikawa region, but you can get synthetic nagura stones now that work beautifully for a fraction of the price. What that paste does is remarkable. The slurry fills in the microscopic valleys on the stone's surface, creating a denser cutting medium. Instead of the blade contacting just the peaks of the abrasive, it is riding on a bed of loose particles suspended in that creamy paste. The cutting action becomes faster and more uniform. At the higher grits, especially 6000 and above, the nagura slurry is what takes you from a sharp edge to a polished edge. Without it, you are just skating across the stone surface without much cutting action. With it, you can feel the blade engaging immediately. The trick is consistency. You want the slurry to be about the consistency of heavy cream. Too thin and it washes away. Too thick and it clogs. Rub your nagura stone in small circles for about 10 seconds. Add a few drops of water if needed, and you will see it come together. When I started using a nagura slurry on my 6000 grit stone, the difference in my edges was immediate. I went from sharp to genuinely polished. The bevel became a mirror, and the cutting performance jumped in a way I could feel on the very first pass across wood. By the way, if you are enjoying learning about these ancient methods, I put together something I think you will really appreciate. It is called Kenji's Workshop, and it is a collection of 100 Ancient Eastern Woodworking Secrets for the Modern Craftsman. Techniques like the ones we are covering today, and a whole lot more. You can grab your copy by scanning the QR code on screen or just use the first link in the description. All right, let us keep going. This next method is the one that really changed how I think about sharpening, because it is not just a technique, it is a design philosophy built right into the tool. Most Western chisels and plane irons are made from a single piece of steel. It is usually a good steel, something like 01 tool steel or A2, and it takes a decent edge. But Japanese tool makers do something different. They forge a thin layer of very hard steel, often white steel or blue steel, with a Rockwell hardness around 62 to 65, and they laminate it onto a thick body of soft iron called G-gain. That soft iron back makes up most of the tool. The hard steel is just the cutting edge, sometimes only 1/8 of an inch thick. Here is why that matters for sharpening. A harder steel holds a finer edge angle without crumbling. Where a Western chisel at 60 Rockwell might start to chip if you go below 25 degrees, a Japanese laminated blade at 64 Rockwell can hold an edge at 20 degrees or even lower. That means a thinner, keener edge that slices through wood fibers instead of pushing them apart. When you sharpen a laminated blade, you are really only working that thin layer of hard steel. The soft iron backing wears away quickly and easily, which means your sharpening time is spent almost entirely on the steel that matters. You are not fighting through a 1/4 inch of hard steel on every pass. You are refining a razor-thin edge. If you have never used a Japanese chisel or plane iron, I would encourage you to pick up even an entry-level one. A good Japanese bench chisel in the $25 to $40 range will show you what this lamination feels like under a stone. The hard steel resists differently than the soft iron. You can actually hear the difference as you work across the bevel. Once you feel that, you understand why this system produces edges that Western single steel tools simply cannot match at the same sharpening effort. Now, with that laminated construction comes one of the most elegant design features I have ever seen in a hand tool. If you flip a Japanese chisel over and look at the back, you will notice it is not flat. There is a shallow hollow ground into the surface. It is very subtle, maybe 5/1000ths of an inch deep, and it does not extend all the way to the edges. That hollow is called Urasuki, and it is there on purpose. When you flatten the back of a Western chisel, you are working the entire surface against the stone. That can take a long time, especially on a wide chisel, and keeping it perfectly flat requires real patience and good technique. The Urasuki changes everything. Because the back is hollow, only the thin rim around the perimeter actually contacts the stone. You are flattening maybe 15 to 20% of the surface area instead of 100%. 3 or 4 passes on a 6,000 grit stone, and that rim is polished to a mirror. That mirror-polished rim is your reference face. When the bevel meets that back at the cutting edge, the intersection is clean, sharp, and perfectly defined. No rounding, no dubbing over. The hollow also creates a slight relief behind the cutting edge, which reduces friction when the chisel enters a mortise or paraise across a joint. It is one of those details that sounds minor until you use it. The first time I paired a tenon cheek with a properly prepared Urasuki back, the chisel glided through the cut in a way my Western chisels never did. It took me maybe 30 seconds to polish that back. It would have taken me 5 minutes or more to achieve the same result on a flat-backed Western chisel. The final method is where you take the edge from sharp to truly polished, and it is where the whole system pays off. After you finish your waterstone progression and your back is polished, there will be a tiny burr along the cutting edge. You can feel it if you drag your fingernail lightly across the back, away from the edge. That burr has to go. If you leave it, the edge will feel sharp for about 30 seconds and then fold over and go dull almost immediately. Japanese craftsmen remove the burr and refine the edge with stropping. The traditional approach uses a piece of untreated leather glued to a flat board, sometimes dressed with a very fine chromium oxide compound. You draw the blade backward across the leather, bevel side down, at the same angle you sharpened at, 5 to 10 passes. Then flip it over and do 2 or 3 very light passes on the back, keeping it perfectly flat. The leather conforms just enough to polish the very apex of the edge without rounding it over. What you are doing at this stage is removing steel measured in fractions of a micron. You are not reshaping anything. You are polishing the intersection of 2 planes, the bevel and the back, to as fine a line as physics will allow. When it is right, you will see the bevel reflecting light uniformly with no bright spots or lines at the edge. A bright line at the edge means there is a flat spot, a tiny area where the 2 planes have not met cleanly. Keep stropping until that line disappears. I test my edges by shaving the hair on my forearm. If it catches or tugs, there is still a burr or a microchip somewhere. When it shaves cleanly and effortlessly, the edge is ready for wood. Let me share some patterns I have noticed over the years, things I used to do myself that this Japanese system handles completely differently. The first pattern is reaching for the highest grit stone first. I used to think that if my edge was almost sharp, I could just touch it up on a fine stone and save time. But all that does is polish a dull edge. You have to start coarse enough to actually establish a new edge, then refine it. The Japanese progression forces you to be honest about where your edge actually is. The second pattern is neglecting the back of the tool. I spent years focused entirely on the bevel and wondering why my edges were inconsistent. The back is half the cutting edge. If it is not flat and polished, it does not matter how perfect your bevel is. The Japanese Urasuki design makes back preparation so fast that there is no excuse to skip it. The third pattern is changing your angle during the stroke. Most of us do this without realizing it. We start the stroke at 30 degrees and end it at 32 because our wrists flex slightly. That creates a convex bevel, which is functionally a duller edge at a steeper angle. Japanese craftsmen lock their wrists and move from the hips. It feels awkward for the first week. After that, it becomes automatic, and your edges become dramatically more consistent. The fourth pattern is stopping too soon. You get to 3000 grit, the edge looks shiny, you test it on your thumbnail, and it bites, and you call it done. But the difference between 3000 grit and a full progression through 6000 with nagura, slurry, and stropping is enormous. Not just in initial sharpness, but in how long that edge lasts. A polished edge has fewer microscopic peaks to fold over, so it stays sharp 2 to 3 times longer than an edge finished at a coarser grit. The fifth pattern is not testing at each stage. The Japanese system has a built-in checkpoint at every grit. Before you move on, the scratch pattern from the previous grit should be completely gone. If you can still see coarser scratches under good light, you are not done at that stage. This simple discipline is what makes the system repeatable. Same process, same checkpoints, same result, every single time. Now for that bonus tip I promised at the beginning. This is the benchmark that competition planing craftsmen use in Japan to prove their edge is truly flawless. They take a properly tuned hand plane and pull a single shaving from a board of hinoki cypress. A clean shaving at 10 microns thick, that is about 1/400th of an inch, proves the edge has no defect deeper than 10 microns. If there were a nick or a chip in the edge, it would show as a line or a tear in the shaving. The best competition planers produce shavings around 2 to 3 microns thick. To put that in perspective, a human red blood cell is about 5 microns wide. They are shaving wood thinner than a blood cell. You do not need to hit 2 microns to have a great working edge. But here is the test you can do right now in your shop. After you finish the full progression, take your sharpest plane, set it for the finest cut you can manage, and pull a shaving off a piece of straight-grained pine or cedar. Hold that shaving up to a window. If you can see light through it uniformly with no lines, no tears, no thick spots, your edge is right. If you see stripes or the shaving breaks apart, there is a flaw in the edge, and you need to go back to the stones. I do this test every single time I sharpen, and it has made my results more consistent than anything else I have ever tried. It takes 10 seconds, and it removes all the guesswork. Before you head out, I want to make sure you know about my book, Kenji's Workshop. It goes way deeper than any single video can, with 100 ancient Eastern woodworking secrets for the modern craftsman, detailed photos, and real hands-on knowledge you can take straight to your bench. If you want to bring these time-tested methods into your own shop, this is the guide to do it. Just scan the QR code on screen or click the link in the description to get your copy. Thanks for spending time with me today. I will see you in the next one.